Welcome back to Colab Talks. In this episode, we continue our conversation from the previous podcast with Minbu about project-based learning, and then talk more about how we can use these projects and blend them together to actually hone your skills, build more from what you know, and showcase your knowledge. By the way, if you've not checked out the first video, hit this button and I'll actually take you right there. And let's jump right in. All right. So, going back to the previous episode on, on our series, and I think so you mentioned this thing called as the project repository. So there's this just gigantic, repository with a lot of projects, sort of this warehouse thing. So I was really curious and how exactly that would work, and more essentially, what does that mean? What is a project repository?
Yeah. So in the last episode, we talked about YouTube project, right? Clone YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
And then,
correct.
So students can learn all the basic computer science topics, coding topics through that project.
True.
But what if students finish that project? Remember, I keep saying that coding, you need to a lot of practice.
True. Yes, you mentioned that.
You better practice code every day. Okay. So if you decide to be a software developer, I believe you need to make sure you code every day. Otherwise, it's very easy to.
Yeah.
So what if you finish this YouTube? What else can you do? Right. So by using this project repository, we provide many interesting real world projects for you to pick up. For example, right, when we talk about YouTube, okay, that's a clone of the video sharing website. We can use the same idea. We can have Amazon, clone Amazon project. It's e-commerce website, right? And then they have this very similar concept. We have this book class and instant book list. You can practice array list, searching, sorting, and you can also do this kind of inheritance. We have a special, for example, hard copy, and then the Kindle book, right? So all these things you can practice there. How about the App Store, right?
True.
It's another another project with a very similar concept, right? So let me share this screen. You can see there's a two-dimensional grid, right? Vertically, those are individual projects. Let's say YouTube project, Amazon project, App Store project, and then they are very similar in terms of those knowledge topics, right? We can have a topic one. Let's say we talk about if and else. Topic two, we talk about the iteration for the while loop, class. We talk about the class and object, and then we can talk about array list. Right. So for certain project, certain topics may not be there, but you can learn most of the topics.
Correct.
And then, for example, once you finish one topic and you said, okay, I want to practice more. You can immediately choose another project to work on. And the good thing, I remember we talked about it in last episode, this individual pieces are independent. Okay, so you can skip the previous steps and you can immediately move on to the specific piece you really want to practice. Right? So as you can see, for certain topics, if you already an expert, you can simply say, okay, I want to ignore it. And I want to use the provided code, and I will just move on. And to certain topics I'm weak at, and I really want to practice more. I really want to put more time in. So that is, as you can see, this is simply a grid. And that is what we talk about, mentioned as personalized learning, because based on your program, based on your progress, based on your current learning status, you know what? Eventually, our system can prompt those topics for you. Our system can realize, okay, you're not really good at topic two. Then after you finish topic two, I'm going to prompt you with more practice for that topic. And then you can move on, right? That is our vision of personalized learning.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I think so. It's really interesting how it makes sense. As if, you mentioned about YouTube and having this Amazon project, and a lot of these components, across the companies are sort of sometimes the same, right? So, once you look for this YouTube videos, once you search a video, right? And then you could sort them with like the upload dates and the relevance and whatnot. At the same time, when you're looking for a product on Amazon, you can again sort them based on like most popular stuff, having like least price or the highest price and whatnot. I think so. Yeah. So what do you mean, and what are you sort of demonstrating this is with this is essentially that all I need to understand is the basics and the fundamentals. And with this
Yeah,
approach, I could sort of plug and play anything. It sort of gives me a superpower, right? In creating sort of any ecosystem or any project that I can launch, right?
exactly. That is why I'm so into this AP Computer Science A project, because there's a high school coding. Because
Right,
that
right.
is, you learn the real basic of how to be a successful software developer,
True,
how to write clean code,
true.
how to learn those principles, how to make sure your code can shine.
Right, right.
Right? So I really want to help my student to form a solid foundation. Like you said, yes, they are very similar, different big companies, but they have a complete different project, but the fundamental idea is the same. Fundamental
Right.
knowledge is the same. If my student can form this solid foundation, they can be successful in either companies, because
Correct.
that
Yeah.
is how software developers work in Silicon Valley. They
I
switch
agree.
companies, and a good developers will be good in every company, right?
Correct.
Because they
Yeah.
know the common skill set.
Fantastic. I think so. This also gives like a peak of professional world or even software engineering, right? Because when you sort of move through different companies or transition to different, companies as well in the same role or even escalate those roles, all you need to take with you is those skill sets and those experiences. The
Um,
companies, they sort of explain you their sort of stack, and then you start just building more on top of that. It sort of gives you kind of a
mm,
peek on that, right? So
yeah, I
yeah, it's
think you
it's
you bring an interesting topic. Actually,
mhm,
only this course is not good enough, right? So that
mhm.
is why we have the vision. The project can be across different courses, right? If
Okay.
you are really interested in this project and
Hmm.
you already understand the fundamental computer science or coding skills,
Hmm.
you can move on to new courses, and we're going
True.
to reuse the same project.
Hmm.
And you already have the idea what the project about. You already have the knowledge, and you can move on to the new aspect of the software development cycle. For
Right.
example, we can have a course talk about, so now here there's no UI. We can talk
Hmm.
about the UI, the front-end development. We can talk about web development. We can talk about mobile development. We can talk about how to testing the code. The QA
Hmm.
is a very important topic. And we can
Hmm.
talk about AI and the machine learning, how to recommend, let's say, the videos, how to recommend the books based on your browsing history, right? There's
True.
so many things we talk about. We can talk
Wow.
about
Yeah.
database. We can talk about how to store data efficiently into the database. There's so
Wow.
many things we can cover we can put into this project. So I call this a mega project, and this project can help the student to learn the complete software development cycle. You know everything
Wow.
about how the current industry develops software.
Wow. And this is while learning and like while being in the course itself. Wow, that's
Exactly.
fantastic. I think so. This gives a lot of takeaway. And with what you're saying, it seems like the projects are sort of endless. Like the limit to a project on how you can build on top of that, it's almost endless. Like you could just constantly get on a lot of information and potentially actually make something really really efficient, make something that you could just launch and you could put in your resume, you can put in your portfolio for your college entrances, whatnot. Wow. So
Exactly.
that sort
Because
of
that
yeah.
is another thing I want to emphasize. It's because I did other project-based teaching in other universities, right? But the problem there is, okay, one student done this project, they just have a piece of code, maybe in zip file,
Yeah,
and
it's just
not
lost.
available
That's it.
publicly. But the good
Correct.
thing with Colab is we want to make sure that all the student projects are publicly available. And you can show
Right.
off to your friends, you can show off to your parents. And the good thing is, if you want to get a job, you can show it. You can give your potential employers a link. Say, okay, this is what I've built.
So it reminds me of this time when just recently I had one of the parents reach out to me. They were applying for internships and their kids were applying for internships. And one of the most exciting things was to see that they put this project that they did in one of my programs at startups on their portfolio. And the company genuinely reached out and they sort of did their due diligence with us. And it's really exciting to see that they really were open to this idea. And it sort of broke down one layer of constant making and breaking things for the students. And it was really exciting to see. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I really
actually
agree with this.
Yeah, you know what? There's another good piece about this project repository. Yes, we have a lot of interesting projects, and you know what? Even better, the student can contribute their own ideas, their own project into this, right? So our Colab will provide the seasoned project managers to help to evaluate the student idea and transform it into a suitable project and dissect them into individual aspect and align with the topic, the knowledge unit. Right. So student can contribute their own ideas, and I strongly believe student will be much more motivated to work on their own ideas, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And that makes sense. And also, the student can also help to improve our project. Student not just passively take away the project, and they can simply look at our code and say, oh, I think this piece be improved. Because yes, it's software development. We always fight for the best, the optimist, right? So we also fight for the best outcome. Right. We can learn from the students as well. Student can contribute into the project repository and say, okay, this piece of code, I think I have a better approach. I have a better algorithm, and they can contribute as well. True. And also, student can also suggest, let's say based on this project, the student can say, I think I want to learn some new topics. And can you based on this project, can you teach me how to do, for example, computer security? True. I want to learn, let's say, how we can secure the data. Then if many students vote for the same topics, hey, we can generate a new course for it. Fantastic, right? Yeah. So student can contribute the topic, student can contribute to the project, student can contribute to generate new courses. True. And if there's not a lot of students really want to work on want to learn certain topics, you know what? We can also provide this one-on-one session. We can pair the student with some instructors, and we can have this kind of a one-on-one session, the private session. And if you want to learn certain topics, we can let them learn. So with this repository, with Colab, you can learn whatever topics you want. Wow. So you sort of, so that it kind of blends in this whole idea of project repository. Now, what you're saying, that it's not centralized with one entity, right? It's completely decentralized. It's a democratized network of that people putting in their network work, right? Exactly, right. Social network work, right? Exactly. Not the user, not just the passively receive information. User can contribute actively contribute to that repository. And you know, even better. Companies can also contribute to that repository. True. Right? Because before, when I was program chair for a university, we have a big headache to help our students to find internship. Right? So students, after they graduate, they want to find an internship as a first step to get a job. Exactly. You know what? With Project Colab, we can ask those companies to put some internship project, maybe get rid of those IP information. They can put into our repository, and we can provide to the student. And once the student complete that project, and they can simply choose those best students at their intern. Exactly. Yeah. I think it completely makes sense, because it's now that the pieces are coming together with project repositories. Colab sort of produces these really seasoned students, right? Which are really skilled. At the same time, it has this
aspect of, getting interesting courses, training these students. And with that, it's also about collaboration, which brings in where a lot of people, it's a lot of like every entity within the collab is sort of collaborating with itself. Like there's instructors, there's students, students collaborating within themselves, within the program, and where everyone has this sort of role, and they have to work on their role. They sort of contribute on different aspects of the projects. I think it's really interesting on how this whole thing is orchestrated. And I really like this idea where a company doesn't have to worry about it. All they do is, hey, if you're looking to get hired, here's the project, do it. We have your profile, we see what you have done. And yeah, if you finish it, there might be a good chance you might be hired, So I think it's really interesting and with the benefits of how this project repository can bring in overall. And, in terms of learning, in terms of different skill sets, gaining these things, collaboration, I think it's pretty much beyond what's being out there today, right?
Exactly. So, I'm really excited about that.
With these project repositories, obviously these projects need someone to be guided to, right? So and that's what happens within the program. Like with when each program takes place, by the end of it, there's this thing called as the demo day, or where students demo their product. And one of the things that we do is we pick the best student, or someone who's contributed the most, someone who knows the ins and outs of the project. And we title them with this thing called as a project mentor. And what he essentially does is, project mentor is he becomes like the owner of the project, like an active or passive owner of that. And whenever, let's say, if I want to create something, if I'm scanning through this project repository and I really like that YouTube project, and if I think, I could actually make that into a Netflix sort of an app, right? I could just reach out to you because you are the project mentor for that. And you sort of build it, and I could be like, hey, I really want to make something on top of it. I have these ideas. Can you walk me through of the ways you did it? And if you're open to collaborating, let's collab and let's make something more on that, or else just leave it to me. Only I can do it, So I think so that really is interesting in terms of this whole project repository, bringing in mentors. It sort of opens doors, not just within the course while someone is taking the course, but also outside of it. So
yeah, definitely,
right?
Because
essentially,
our student can play a lot of roles after they complete individual courses, complete this project. They can be the project mentor. They can be the TA of the next course.
Obviously,
right?
Yeah.
And they can help other students to learn. They can be the project coordinator. There's so many roles the student can play with.
Exactly. I think this is one of the most, actually by far, the exciting things that I think so that I've heard that I'm getting an opportunity to work on. And it's really interesting to work with really ambitious people like you, someone who's really motivated. And I think so there's a lot more that we're covering, right? This thing about collaborations, I think it needs a complete different episode of itself. Yeah, so stay tuned, guys. We'll be actually going through this whole thing of collaboration. We'll be showing you how each pieces would come together, how they'd work. But yeah, I think so this gives you a lot more understanding of how programming is not just limited to what you do within the class or within that zip file of yours that stays away in some part of your computer once your program is done or once your course is done. We really focus on creating the most seasoned professional. We really focused on making this collaborative, making this decentralized, making this your own rather than it being someone else's, right? So everyone can take the ownership, everyone can build on top of that, and everyone at the most can have the experience of what it is to genuinely code, to genuinely program something. And
one more thing I want to add on is now learning is not just a passive receiving, it's active contributing.
For all these things that we discussed today, Min has actually written a fantastic article on this. Link is in description. Hit that like button. And thanks a lot. We'll see you in the third episode. This is Aakash Dave, and that's Min.
Bye.
And we'll see you later. Cheers. Bye.